guys, Matt with Olympus Reptiles, and this video is one of our requests that we had given to us by a comment. Again, we love those requests. So Sheldon Cooper, I just love that the guy used his name from Big Bang Theory. I hope that's your real name, that'd be so kick-ass. Anyway, Sheldon Cooper, this one's for you, and it's about getting into recessive morphs. There are several things to think about when you get into recessive morphs. One, it's going to take longer, okay? It's not like breeding an incomplete dominant. It's not like doing pastels, because you're not going to necessarily, unless you invest big, make the morph right away. It just doesn't work that way. It's also not as quick to mix other genes in. Now I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. The other thing is, they often cost more to get into. They hold their value better though too, so you're going to get more of your money back, when you do start producing. I think the easiest way to do a recessive morph project is like what we're doing with clowns. And what we're doing with clowns is we got this guy here. This is, of course, our big old male clown trouser, the one-eyed snake. We're not being gross. He literally only has one eye. There it is, from incubation error. So you take a guy like Trouser here, and he is a visual recessive. He is a visual clown. What that basically means is he is homozygous for clown. And recessive is easier if you think of everything in heterozygous and homozygous. And the homozygous you can see, heterozygous obviously you can't. But since he's homozygous, that means everything he breeds, he's going to pass the clown gene on to. So no matter what I breed him to, he's going to give it heterozygous. He's going to make heterozygous for clown. Now, if the partner that he has would be another clown, it would also pass on one gene. So then it would get two copies, and clown to clown would make nothing but homozygous clowns. But I can tell you, buying female clowns is a bit on the expensive side. Worth every penny, but it can cost you a little bit more to get into there. So what a lot of people do is they start with a snake like this, and then they go with, let me see if I can't.
There's one over there.
I want to grab this one, Kurt. I know there's one over there, but this is the one I wanted. She's my favorite. I don't know why. Probably because she's cranky all the time. I got an affinity for the cranky ones. We have got, of course I would grab one and shed. We'll get a different one that's not about to shed, so that actually looks good. Man, I tell you what, I have bad luck on just picking snakes sometimes, don't I? We'll get the one Kurt wanted me to get. We'll make camera guy Kurt correct this time. Then we have four, literally four of these. I'm not going to get them all four out because, well, I get them confused. The four that we have here are all heterozygous clowns. So you can see they look just like a normal. Nothing special about them. But they'll pass that clown gene on to half their offspring. So if I pair him to her, I should get, theoretically, half the babies should be clowns. Half of them will be heterozygous, the other half will be homozygous, visual clowns. So that makes, her value pretty high. What we did is we didn't just pick up her, we picked up her and three of her sisters. So we picked up 4 heterozygous clown females and 1 visual clown male. When these girls are all up to size, which will be next season, and we start running those pairings, if we get all 4 of them to go, we have an average of 5 eggs a clutch, that's going to be 20 eggs, okay? At 20 eggs, you would expect 10 of those eggs, expecting all to go full term, to be clown. If we get 10 clowns, you can do the math on what those are going to sell for. I'm not going to try to estimate prices down the road, but that will cover our investment pretty easy on those snakes. And then we can also hold back some female clowns if we want. So we can even make more clowns. So that's probably the simplest way to do a recessive project, is buy a visual male. If you're going to buy a visual and a bunch of hets, I recommend you get the male visual because he can breed to multiple females. If you get a visual female and then a het male, well, that's kind of all you can do with that. Or you have to buy a bunch of visual females for the same result, which would cost you a lot more to get into that project. So I recommend starting visual male, het females, if you're going to go one het route, which is typically what a lot of people do. You can do visual to visual. I've done visual to visual breedings. We did it on albinos last year. Works like a charm. Put this guy up. Now, before we do that, let's talk about one other thing with her. a couple things on hets. If you're going to go buy heterozygous recessive snakes, you better know who you're buying from. This is where that video about marketing, I don't know if it's posted yet or not. I'm not sure what order camera guy Kurt will choose to post these comes in to be very, very important on how you market yourself. You don't want to buy something that's heterozygous from somebody you don't know or don't trust or doesn't have good reviews. You want to make sure you feel comfortable with that person. Have some conversations with them, know who you're buying from. In our case, we got all 4 of these here locally from at the time was a good friend of ours, and now is literally a business partner of ours, the brick and mortar shop that we're all partial owners of. And so we knew the exact clutch, the exact parents. We saw it all go down. So like, we know what these are, because that's the thing. Some people will sell what's listed as hets, and then you'll never see them again. They'll be that guy who pops up, sells a bunch of snakes. It's going to add het this, het that to it, just because it increases the sale value. Even though, trying to run away on me, girl. Even though they're really not. You give them your money, you get the snake. You don't find out for several years that it's not really a het. And by the time you do find out, you can't find that person anymore, and you're just out a bunch of money. Because the difference between some hets and a normal are quite steep. Think about a het sunset right now. You're talking thousands upon thousands of dollars versus a $20 normal that you could get ripped off on if you didn't know who you were buying from. So very, very important to know who you're buying from. The other thing you can get into is like we took this girl here, who's in with a male right now. This actually is great to show, Kurt. This is a recessive project happening right now. This is an albino female, and this is a het albino, het exanthic male. And you're probably saying, well, that's the exact opposite of what you told me to do. Well, the reason is we bred him on, he's one of our own production. He's a double het, so he carries 2 recessive. So he's what they would call het snow, which would be an exanthic albino. The females we kept back aren't ready to breed yet, so we're going to breed to her and make albinos that are possible het exanthic. And that's what they'll be sold as. Albinos, or 100% albino for anyone that's not a visual, that are 50% possible het exanthic. We won't be able to know on the het exanthic. So you have the possible het exanthics too, and they really are just a wild card. We know he's going to pass on to approximately half his offspring. That's where we get the 50%, but we won't have any way of telling which ones. Possible hets really don't add much in the way of value. They used to back in the day, but now they really don't. So that's the recessive project we're working on right now. You know, some of the other things you get into are like right here. I already pulled him out, but see that girl there? You can see she's sideland, so she may be starting follicle development now. We'll see. She was our last to go. See me about she's sideland. See her belly's up there? We'll get into that one of these days. Is the parents to this guy. We already pulled him out. Showed him off. Let's pull out this one here. Oh, you're in shed? You look terrible. I'll let you be too. I cannot find a snake that's not in shed today, Kurt. You're not in shed. This is mom to that little guy. By the way, he's available. He is a guaranteed 100% het ghost because it's her offspring. She's obviously a visual ghost. And he's also 100% het exanthic. So this is a het true ghost. We know that because, again, we use an exanthic male. So you have your double recessive projects, which is what we're working on now. We're doing the same thing this year. She's being bred to another exanthic. A different one with a different kicker gene. So let's talk about breeding these recessives. Let's say you're going to do a recessive project and you want to get some combos. Some, like, well, my goal, Bumblebee exanthic. I've heard me talk about it probably 15 times. That was my goal snake when I first started. So how do we get there? Well, I'll show you how we're going to get there. This year we're going to get there by this girl right here, who is just put on great big weight. Now, this is one of the few hets I bought from a person that I didn't actually know. Never. I've met him now. At the time I hadn't. But when you do that, and I bought this from JD Constriction, which is John Dagg. When you do that, you got to do your research. and I did my research on John. I did a lot of research on John. I also had probably a couple hours of phone conversations with John, all to buy this snake here. And John was great, answered all my questions. He's actually where I got the idea for serial numbers from. If you ever watch these videos, which I'm sure you don't, I totally stole that from you. It's a great idea. And I felt comfortable buying a het from him where I wouldn't from other people. I know what his stock is. I know the quality of the animals he has and the Axanthic line that he works and runs. Not just the line being SK or VPI. All of his and all of mine are both SK. But the quality of the line breeding that he's done, like his SK, are typically really, really nice. And so that was what I wanted for my het. So I have this girl here. Can you try to keep her on the table too by chance?
Yep.
And we're breeding to this male here. And you can see this is a visual spider Axanthic. Now, what's going to happen here with this pairing, and they've been locked multiple times, is he's going to pass that recessive on to everybody, right? Remember? Visual? He's going to pass, make everything heterozygous. She's going to pass on to half. So half my babies should come out Axanthic. Okay? That's what I should get. And the rest should be het Axanthic. Now I'm also got a pastel gene floating in here, which is, as you know, an incomplete dominant, and a spider gene floating around in here. So if this was just a spider to pastel pairing, we would know our odds for a bumblebee would be 1 in 4, correct? 1 in 4 for a normal, 1 in 4 for a pastel, 1 in 4 for a spider, and 1 in 4 for a bumblebee. Now, because half my babies are going to be Axanthic and half aren't, you add that in there and you're going to get 1 in 8 on everything. So it'll be 1 in 8 for an Axanthic, 1 in 8 for a normal, 1 in 8, you know. When I say normal, obviously we're talking about still be het Axanthic. But we're going to have a 1 in 8 odd. So the odds aren't great. They're not bad. We'll see if we hit them. And that is, you know, how we're going to do that. We'll have several holdbacks from this clutch, I'm sure. And that will be breeding to make, you know, even more. I've got, what I really need is a female bumblebee. Axanthic. That'd be rocking. Actually, what I need is about 5 bumblebee Axanthics. But we'll be happy with just 1. So that's kind of how you work that project. So when you're getting into recessives, somebody was going to get into recessives and say, I want to do a recessive project. And if they're like Sheldon said he didn't want to keep a huge collection to start. He wanted to keep it to around 5 or 6 snakes. If you're wanting to do that, what I would suggest, and you wanted to work recessives. Let's say you picked your favorite recessive. If I was only going to work 5 snakes, and that was it, and I really wanted to have a badass recessive project, here's what I do, okay? I buy my male, who is a visual. Let's say we're going to do Axanthic. And maybe, if I want to spend a little extra money, I buy a male who's Axanthic with an extra gene, like pastel Axanthic per se, or something like that. So that's my male, okay? And then I go and I spend money on 4 females for the rest of my 5 that are all het Axanthic and all carry a different gene. So let's say I had a pastel Axanthic male. He was going to be my stud. And I go to get my 4 females. I look for a fire het Axanthic, maybe a yellow belly het Axanthic, maybe a spider het Axanthic, and then probably something like, I don't know, Mojave het Axanthic, or whatever else I like. That way, and here's why I'm doing that, because now all of those are going to give me, you know, half their babies will be Axanthic, right? So cool on that. That's going to be a good thing. And then I get not only that, but I'm making combos right away. See, these are things I didn't do. These are things I learned I probably should have done, right? And I'm now telling you, if I was doing it over again, this is how I would do it. So Sheldon, this is what I would do. I would buy those 4. If I was going to do it first, I'd buy my 4 girls. I'd spend that money, put them girls in tubs, I'd feed them for a year. And then next year I'd spend more money, I'd buy my male, because the male doesn't need to be as big. And then by the next year, I'm hoping we're breeding. That would be my goal. If not, it'd be 1 year later. And that's how I would work it. And think about what you could get with that combo. You put that pastel Axanthic male to a het Axanthic fire female, you've got a shot at firefly Axanthics. They're awesome. They haven't even been out that long. Really cool. With the with the spider head axanthic female, you got a shot at bumblebee axanthics. You know, if you stepped it up and got a bee head axanthic, you could have a shot at killer bee axanthics. So, you know, with the Mojave, you got, you know, a shot at Mojave axanthics and also, you know, Pastave axanthics, which would look really cool. I might do a lesser instead of the Mojave, be your choice. So you have all these things that you can make where you're making, you know, like, you know, codom plus another gene, so maybe 2 codoms and a recessive is what you have a shot at in each one of those eggs. And so you're going to be producing really, really high-end, really, really nice snakes from the word go. You know, that's how I'd run that project. Kurt, any questions?
Is there anything you have to watch out, like when doing recessive, like on the different lines of axanthic?
Yes, and that's something that's pretty specific to certain things. Axanthic being one of the main ones, is you have multiple lines of axanthic that are not compatible. They're actually different genes. They do the same thing visually, but they're different. And what you have is the snake keeper line, or SK. You'll hear it called SK or TSK or snake keeper. That's the line I work. You have a VPI line, which the Barkers developed. They got in the wild. And those two definitely are not compatible. You have the Joliffe line. And, you know, I haven't seen a lot of Joliffe. I've seen a couple of them. That's it. The Joliffe line, there's just not as many of them out there, especially here where I'm at. And then you also have another line that I'm not sure, it may have been proven to be compatible with one of the other ones up in Canada that was started on complete accident. Crazy story. If you look up Marcus Jane Reptiles, he actually hit the first lightning pied and like didn't even know he had axanthic in his collection. Lucky. Awesome. I wish that was me. Really cool story to watch. I mean, could you imagine you're trying to hatch a pied and it's a lightning pied? That would just be, you know, totally cool. So you have all these different lines out there, and you can't mix them. Like if you breed a VPI and an SK, and those are the 2 most common lines. Like that's the 2 you're going to find the most. Together, you won't make a visual. Theoretically, you would make a bunch of double heads. So like, you have to know the line you're working. Some people do carry both, and they keep all that straight, and I think that'd be very difficult to do sometimes, especially since some of them look the same. So I have picked a line, and I stuck with that line. And I'll show you the reason I picked that line. I picked that line because of this snake right here, who, oh, he looks good. He just shed. Got a little piece still on there. He completely destroyed his tub in doing so. He's going to need a cleaning. This guy right here. I'm hoping the camera picks his color up pretty well. You'll get that off on your own. It's just a little bit. I bought him as almost an adult. This is actually one of the first ball pythons I ever owned. I bought 2 at the same time. This guy and my bumblebee male. I decided I really wanted an axanthic. I really wanted a zebra bee, but decided I would just make one. And if you look at his color, I think it's crazy. I think he looks great for an adult. Which is funny, because you'll hear all these arguments about this line's the best, that line's the best, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Neither one's the best. And it's usually between VPI and SK people. Both can be super nice. Both can have really crappy browned out examples. Part of it's a matter of line breeding. I found out after I got this guy, it actually was a product from John. Go figure. That's why it looks so good. Can you keep him on the table for a second, Kurt? Just
yep.
Do whatever you need to do that. I don't want to use your urine shed. That would be an unfair comparison. Yeah. You want to kill me. That wouldn't be a good comparison either. I know who I'll use. You're a good comparison, Snake. Let me get this guy out. This is basically a normal. This is a double het albino, and this is double het recessive. This is het axanthic, het albino that I produced, and you can see the color difference. Like you can see that. So this guy has held his adult colors really, really, really well. Look at the difference in the head and the neck. Hopefully the camera's picking that up well.
Yep.
It is? Good. So like, once I had him, then I knew, okay, I have an SK, I'm going to work SK. So then everything I buy is SK. Doesn't mean SK is better. I'm not going to tell you it's better. I'm going to tell you it's better for me. The reason it's better for me is I'm not too far away from JD Constriction. Also, Tall Grass Reptiles is located here. That's who produced my spider axanthic male, who's extremely high quality as well. So I've got some really good sources where I can bring in new blood, you know, to my lines right here. And that's really what did it for me. Had I found a nice VPI first, I probably would have bought VPI. But I didn't. I found this guy. And I just really like him. He's really cool. So that is a difference in the lines. You have to keep them separate. I'd recommend just working one, but hey, you do you. Kurt, any other questions?
Nope, that should be all.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed meeting my one of my first ball pythons. This is Erebus. And you know what? I'll be honest, like this snake here, because I've got males that are genetically much more interesting than him that carry axanthic, I keep thinking, oh, I should sell him. I do let him breed. He has bred a few things. He's kind of my backup male visual. I just can't bring myself to part with him because every time I think about it, you know, I'll open his tub, I'll pull him out, I'll see how nice he is. Remember how much I first fell in love with this gene and that silvery color on him. Just, you know, there's a little bit of a rainbow sheen to him, and I also love how black the blacks are. Like how much I just really liked it, and then I can't part with him. He is like that snake that I shouldn't keep, but I always will keep. That is him to a T. So anyway guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.